In today's video, we're going to talk about how you can invest in all of the current leagues.
So just before the video does
objectives.
start, a quick little ad on a trading service I offer over on Twitch for the cheapest trading guides out there for just £4, €4, all free with Amazon Prime. You'll receive daily trading and investing guides covering PlayStation, Xbox and PC with an array of methods covering all budgets. And I've been trading for over 10 years, making over 100 million in multiple different FIFAs, and now for the last 4 years I've made 10 million coins in just the first month.
So in today's video, what we are going to do is we are going to go through all the current leagues, SPCs and objectives, and basically just talk about how you can buy some link investments and make some good money. So what are link investments, you may ask? Well, link investments are basically when you buy a player that links to a player who got an SPC. So for example, we can go and pick the likes of Ismaili Sarr. Now Ismaili Sarr came out on the Sunday, if I'm not wrong, and yeah, he was very cheap and very well demanded. So as a result of him being very cheap and very well demanded, what people have done is they've bought him and put them in their teams. And as a result of him being put in people's teams, they need to link him in. So what has happened is we've got someone like Klaus who's gone all the way down to 18, 19k, and he's rebounded 10k in under a week. That's because Klaus is one of the only good links that you can link up to, the likes of Ismaili Sarr. We have also seen this occur with the likes of Rodrigo. When Rodrigo came out, we saw an initial rise on all the Real Madrid players. We saw very good rises on the Real Madrid players who weren't in packs, such as Inform Bellingham and RTTK Modric. But on top of this, we also did see rises on some of the golds. We saw a good rise on Gold Bellingham because he wasn't in packs. We can see the likes of Eder Militao. We can go to the 14-day average. We can see that on the Friday, he went from the best part of about 40k all the way up there to 60k. So even gold cards who are currently still getting packed are still rising as a link investment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the link investments, including the likes of Objective Palacios, SBC Simones, SBC Aspas, SBC Alvarez, and I believe, oh yeah, we'll finally end off with the Liga Portugal objectives. We'll talk about all the investments you guys can make for them and talk about the sort of risk we'll probably see with that. Start off with the likes of Palacios. Now, Palacios' card is going to be the objective card, and I'll be honest with you, it is very rare to actually get a well-demanded objective card, especially this early in the year. The reason for that is they're just not made overly amazing. Wilson, pretty meh card. Was it RTTK Reina? Not amazing. Darmian, not overly amazing. And as a result, no link investments these players have actually risen because the cards in general just aren't demanded. So, we see these guys' predictions, but the predictions doesn't actually mean anything. I mean, if they were to go and release a card this good, he would do very well. The only problem is this is his current base card. So, you know, basically what we're asking for is if we can go and get ourselves 80 plus pace, or if we can go and get ourselves, let's say in the realms of 75 place with 80 plus on every other stat, I could actually see him being the first well-demanded objective. But it all mainly comes down to what that pace upgrade is. Now, I actually did a little bit of research on this, hopefully I've still got it up, yep. And I actually sorted centre mids via pace and looked at what was kind of like the lowest pace with the cards still being demanded. Because we've got cards like Nemanja Matic, and this is why him having low pace doesn't really work. Because Nemanja Matic has relatively high stats everywhere else. He doesn't even have that low of pace, but he's just not demanded. You know, his links, basically his links in club is also not too good. And we can see Palacios' club is a lot better. We see Salvo. Salvo on the other hand is a bit more demanded. 80 plus every stat, but not 80 plus pace. So the likes of Salvo is probably a little bit of a better example. The problem for Salvo again is his links are a little bit better. But anyone with a lot lower pace than that just isn't very well desired. But yeah, I did a little bit of research on all the all-round sentiments. Obviously, you've got cards like Bellingham, who didn't quite need 80 pace to be well demanded. But yeah, I did my research, and as soon as you start dropping off the 75 pace, the demand for these all-round sort of centre mids really does drop off, and yeah, isn't too amazing. So first off, we need the card to basically have 80 pace, or again, at least 75 pace with the rest of the stats. Now, how are we going to go and link the likes of Palacios in the team? Now, there's a few different avenues you can go down with the likes of Palacios, some of which are already inflated. So some of the already inflated ones to go for is the likes of Grimaldo and Hincape. Now, Hincape actually wouldn't be overly risky because this card is going to naturally rise and rise and rise all week, just with all RTKs. So you actually can go and buy Hincape inflated. The only thing as I'd say is, if he doesn't go up for the likes of Palacios, then just hold on to him until the games. Because, again, this card is projected to keep rising and rising and rising, therefore it is basically a risk-free sort of card to buy. But again, you know, if Palacios doesn't rise him, you then don't have to panic sell him. Grimaldo sadly is already up a fair bit. I think he's already up from about 44 all the way up to 54, so I wouldn't touch Grimaldo. Not unless he gets heavily panic sold before the objective comes out, but the objective is expected to come out on the Friday. So, Grimaldo, a card, if he drops that down to like 46, brilliant. If he doesn't drop down to 46, I think it's too late. So other than that, you then have some more out there investments. Now, I wouldn't really touch her, I'll be honest with you. I think that's a pretty rubbish investment. The out there investments is actually gold Grimaldo and gold Frimpong. Yeah, and that is all she wrote. But it's not basic gold. It is gold Grimaldo with a shadow and gold Frimpong with a shadow. Now, the reason for this is when there are SBCs and objectives, and let's say they're cheaper, so obviously objectives are free, then they're put in the plebby teams. You know, like Darmian, for example, when he got that centre-back card, he would have been put in very, very cheap teams, very starter teams. Well, as a result of him being put in starter teams, people would have used plebby players with him. But just buying the plebby players won't work because there's so much supply of players like Spinazzola. But what there isn't loads of supply of Spinazzola with a shadow. So what we see is some of these objectives and SBCs that are very cheap. We see some of the cheap links rise. For example, I think another good example here would be, if I can hopefully load it up, is the likes of Klaus. So Klaus with a shadow previously was going for about, I think it was going for about 1.5k last week. He generally was one of the cheapest non-centre-backs with a shadow. Well, if I go and look at what he is with a shadow now, obviously the demand should have been picked up because of the likes of Saar. He's already probably rebounded to 3k. And again, you may wonder, how on earth did I know what he is in the first place? Shadow trading is my bread and butter, so I basically know what every cheap card with a shadow goes for on FIFA. Pretty cool, I know. So, Klaus went up a lot because of the Saar. So, for example, the likes of Grimaldo with a shadow and the likes of Frimpong with a shadow can do very well if Palacios wouldn't even have to be that good of a card. He would just have to be good enough for plebby teams to want to use him. And they're very, very risk-free, the likes of Grimaldo with a shadow and the likes of Frimpong with a shadow. Because gold cards with shadow don't drop as much as gold cards do when gold cards drop as such. So these are the two investments I would go with the likes of Palacios. We then move to Xavi Simons. I can see Xavi Simons being a very, very well-demanded card. Like, he doesn't really need too much. Obviously, his base card isn't too amazing, but he doesn't really need too much of an upgrade on this card. He's already got very high pace. So, especially if they go and throw a play style on him, I can see him being quite well demanded. In fact, he's one of the most demanded base cards. When the game first came out, he was, I believe, used for one of the evolutions, or quite popular, and therefore he held value really, really well. Bear in mind, he is like a discard plebby card. So, what are his links? So, his links aren't overly crazy. You've basically got two cards. You've got the likes of Openda, which, I'll be honest with you, I probably wouldn't touch, because I know he's an RTK card, but he's become a lot more inflated than the likes of Hincape in terms of like the last 24 hours. I mean, he's literally up 30k at the moment. But we come back to this. Frimpong with a shadow. Frimpong with a shadow, obviously, he's going to get that Dutch Bundesliga link. So, that is another relatively risk-free link. Now, because we're two Bundesliga players in, we actually might see the effect of what happened when we got a few La Liga SBCs last week. And that's that you don't actually need a direct link for them to do well, in terms of you don't need a strong link. Because if we get Xavi Simons, and he's well demanded, and we get Palacios, and he's well demanded, let's say Trap from last week was he well demanded? It was relatively well demanded. What's going to start happening, and especially got this Iconia as well from the objectives, what's going to start happening is people are going to start shifting into Bundesliga teams. So then what we can do is we can go and pick up some of the most popular Bundesliga special cards. To do that, we're going to go down to PGP, as always. We're going to go we're going to go League, and we're going to go into the Bundesliga. And then we're going to go and sort via games. We're then going to go into this version thing, and we're going to go on to specials. Now, what you have to appreciate is obviously this depends when cards came out, because the later cards came out, the more games they've had to have played with them. But we can see that some of the most popular Bundesliga special cards are the likes of Citadilia. We can see that Bonucci is one of the most favourite. Again, these are RTKs. These are basically house money when it comes to trading. Now, what you have to be aware of is if you're buying Lineman, they release a good Palacios. Palacios is replacing him, so probably stay off CDMs. We could look at the likes of Goetze. He only came out the other week. He's had a fair few games. Could look at the likes of Coman. But again, for this to happen, we kind of need Palacios to be well demanded. That'll probably come out on the Friday. And then Xavi Simons, you'd then have to gamble on the demand of him later in the week. So that's Xavi Simons. Really, I wouldn't touch Openda. Even though I understand he follows the RTK rule, he's just up too much in the last 24 hours. But yeah, the likes of Frimpong with a shadow, looking good again. We then move to Aspas. Now, the main problem Aspas has right here is the 3-star skills. We've seen SBCs in the past being relatively undesired because they had 3-star skills. The good thing going for Aspas is we've had a fair few La Liga SBCs recently with the likes of Rodrigo, we have the likes of Hector Bellerin, and I believe that's potentially all she had. So we've had a few La Liga ones that have been semi-demanded as of recently, so could be good for La Liga special cards. Again, you can apply the exact same thing we did with the Bundesliga, with the La Liga. In terms of strong links, he only really has the likes of Saul, and Saul is already too inflated for a player that they'd have to increase the skill moves to be demanded. So I really wouldn't want to touch this card unless it gets panic sold back down to, I think it was about 50, yeah, it's about 55k. Unless it gets panic sold back down to 55k, I wouldn't touch that in terms of an Aspas link. Gaia also wouldn't be a bad card. The problem I have with Gaia, and the problem I have with all Trailblazers at the moment, is that I'm confident they're going to drop out of packs. Because we didn't see a big enough drop over the weekend, and we also didn't see rule breakers last year rise crazily out of packs for some of them, there's a chance Gaia drops out of packs. So I mean, if Gaia goes, let's say 50k or below, either going into the panic selling on Friday or after 6 PM on Friday, I do like him as a buy. But other than that, I don't like buying him right now because I'm confident that the rule breakers will drop, or Trailblazers, sorry, will drop out of packs. And we finally move to the likes of Alvarez. Now, Alvarez is a bit of an interesting one when it comes to links because I kind of have complications with all of his links. So Alvarez is someone who can play striker and right wing. Currently has no playstyle plus. I'd be surprised if they don't make him a more expensive SBC and give him a playstyle plus. But let's have a look at his strong links because I have a few problems with these. Diaz, 1, again, I think, unless this Alvarez comes out on the Friday and is really well demanded, I can see Diaz dropping out of packs just with the rest of the Trailblazers. So his other link investments is the likes of Romero. Romero actually isn't too bad. Now he's been rising a fair bit out of packs, obviously got down to 16 and he's already up at 21. Not the worst card to go and pick up at 21. Obviously, you are buying inflated because if you don't buy within the first 10 minutes of this week to come out, you are buying inflated. The good thing about Romero is he actually had quite a lot of games played with him last week. If we look at his PGP. So Romero at 21 wouldn't be the end of the world. I don't think he necessarily crashes with the likes of, with what's it called? With Alvarez not being that demanded. At the same time, he's not insanely the most demanded card in the world. But, you know, it's a bit of a investment if you wish. Then we move to the likes of Doku. Now, the problem I have with Doku is he plays, obviously, in that right mid and right wing role. Obviously, he also plays in that left mid and left wing role. And unless people are playing Alvarez at striker and Doku at right wing, obviously they're more competition. The other problem with this guy is he's also already up 12k, and for me that's just way too inflated. Now, if the Alvarez is super well demanded, let's say Rodrigo levels, 10k inflation will be nothing on Doku. He'll go up another 10, 20k, but I can't go and recommend you buying someone who's inflated 12k on the gamble that the SBC is well demanded. You can buy it if the SBC comes out, and again, he's got a crazy playstyle. Maybe he's got Trickster, he's got the Finesse Shot, he's got the Power Shot, a very high demanded playstyle with him maybe not being too expensive. Then I can see the likes of Doku, even the likes of Diaz countering the sort of drops I would initially imagine see. And finally, the only other investment I'd like for him would maybe be the likes of Kyle Walker, but again, I wouldn't buy Kyle Walker until the SBC comes out because I do anticipate him dropping over the weekend because we see a lack of drop in the market over the week. Now, I also wouldn't look at the likes of Shadow and Hunter players for the likes of Alvarez, like I've shown you with the likes of Frimpong and Grimaldo, and that is because I would be very, very surprised if they go and release him as a cheap SBC. And the cheap SBCs are normally the only ones that will go and rise the gold cards with Shadows, because of course special cards aren't being used to link in with them. And that is about all she wrote. So hopefully it's given you guys a nice guide into where to invest, where not to invest, and everything in between with the up-and-coming elite players. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.